So last night, my dear friend Lisa told me, Daniel, by the way, you will be doing the interview with Marion.
Well,
Oh,
let's
come
have
on.
a lot of fun then.
And I was like, okay, that's really great. And then she filled me in. Oh, she's killing me now. Then she filled me in on what you guys are doing, and obviously what you are doing as well, and all the prep talk. And well, it's no secret I like this hotel and I like this brand. Most people know. So Marion, yeah. Marion, what's your background? Where did you all of a sudden appear from, and where do you come from?
Yeah, well, first I have to explain a little bit my voice, I think. I enjoyed Berlin a lot, so probably it's that. And I need a lot of water, so, but I'm really happy to be here. Well, where did I come from? Yeah, totally different background. My father said, well, your circle is round now, because I did education in hospitality. But then I went into the telecommunication industry, and I owned several companies, and the last one I owned was a marketing digital agency. And I did lots of transformations in different countries to more digitalization. So yeah, I just listened, of course, to the previous speaker, and I can, well, I can understand him quite well.
I'll come back to that
Yeah.
in a second.
Yeah.
So for the ones, well, obviously everyone knows the student hotel from here, being here
Yeah.
lately, right? But can you build a broader picture on what the student hotel stands for? What's your business model?
Yeah.
What's the idea? What's the concept?
Well, of course, the source where we were coming from is that we really felt that students deserve a better environment to live in. So that is really where we came from. And but what you see in the meantime is that, of course, not only students deserve a better life, but also, well, hotel leisure guests deserve a better life, and even we working from home, but also from different environments, also need a better life. So where we come from is really that we think, okay, you deserve a better life, and that we think it should not only be for students, it should also be for, well, leisure, tourists, and also workers' business.
Right.
And what you see is then that you get a hybrid model, and that was not a bad model during COVID, to be honest. Of course,
Can you emphasize on that a little bit?
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
pretty
sure.
interesting.
Of course, during COVID, well, it was not a, well, I don't have to say that here, it was not a fun time for the hospitality industry. But because we have a hybrid model, we could switch quite easily, of course, to our students, which still had to live in our hotels. So and that was quite good to go to, because then we could change. And that's what we also now feel, is that there is a difference in behavior of working, and that we say, okay, well, it's quite logically, because a lot of people in the environment really looked at our hotels, and they were still open, and they were quite lively, and they like to stay and work in our hotels. And then we say, okay, well, let's bring that alive. So co-working is for us also now a very logical and easy way of doing.
You're doing my job already. You're
Oh,
covering
sorry.
all the questions.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
So,
maybe.
coming back to that, what's the next evolution of the student hotel? What's coming next? How do you evolve? How do you change operations? How do you change your product?
Well,
or
the funny
service?
thing is I'm just 4 months in. I'm 4 months in, and I'm together with a great team, of course, and of course also together with Phil's team. And we have many locations. We really are focusing, of course, on having the guest in the middle, really looking at that experience, understanding what kind of guests you have. Then you talk in audiences. For me, it's quite logical, because I have a marketing background too. And when you look at the different kind of guests you have, and you look at the experience they want to go through, then you also understand what you have to change. What you have to change in your physical environment, but also, of course, in your digital environment. And I think it's very important to understand digital never makes the changes, because the changes, the really wow moments are physical, but you make it so much easier to work for your own people and of course also for your clients.
Can you already speak to what are the key learnings from that and what you already decided to change?
Well, what we decided to change is that we only now start for every product concept development from a guest experience. And you think it's easy, but it isn't, because it's a cultural and also mindset change. And so even for us, we sometimes don't do that. So even for us, we really talked a lot yesterday, and still I said, okay, well, to emphasize every time, start with the guest experience. Don't forget that. It's very easy to talk about operations, to talk about products, to talk about everything and not having the guest every time in your starting point. So that is really the first thing. And if you are doing that, then you have to make it very simple, because then of course you can put it in the real life, but putting it in a digital environment, you really have to write it down very simply. You have to understand what kind of data you want to gather, and also what kind of granularity of the data you want to have. Because by setting up, we can set up lots of digital systems, but not thinking about the way you want to capture the data from the very starting point, and then you start again with the guest, you have a problem. Because you set something up and you cannot use it, or you're missing information, and then, hey, it's a pity.
Or it's a too broad picture or whatever.
Yeah. And I think what is very important, what we also changed, is that a room is for us not a room. It's just a space. It's square meters. And
hold on.
Okay.
Did you all hear that? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you explain that, because I think that's key and makes a holistic difference as well on how tech will be or will need to be set up in the future.
Exactly. And their tech is a very important enabler, but if tech is not doing it in the right way,
it's a showstopper.
Well, it's a showstopper, and you can never change your guest experience and etc. So what we are doing is, look at this building. We are not finished here. Phil knows that. We just went through the building this morning, and we really feel we can really make it better. And Phil also really wants to make it better with his team. When you look at all those square meters, it's fantastic. But are we using them at this moment on a good way? Is every guest happy to use it in every way? No. So what we really have to find out, okay, of course, first go, okay, what does the guest want to do in our building? So does it want to sleep? Fine. We have square meters rooms. Does it want to work? Great. We have square meters to work. Does it want to have a dedicated desk? Hey, we have a little bit more square meters to work. We have offices. We have places to have events. We have places to play. So you really have to understand what kind of square meters you have in a building, and how are you going to put them not only in the building, bring them alive in the building, but also in the system, and to really be able to bring both digital and physical life together to the next stage.
Make them convertible as well, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's something. It's not the first time I hear that in the market, obviously.
Yep.
But I think it's a very good idea and a very smart idea. And coming from a PMS background, yes, I do. That's obviously something from what I learned back then, starting in 2007. It was never possible, right? So especially for technology, it needs to adapt. Only thinking upwards from a PMS level upwards, how to make that possible to book will be a challenge, obviously, because you need to use different systems and whatever. So I think that's really fresh and exciting to hear new ideas, especially from people coming outside from our industry, because sometimes we get stuck in what we learned before, what we've seen. It's always been like that. That's a sentence I hear a lot. Or we cannot change it because X, Y, Z. So you're an intruder, let's call it, right? For 4 months now. And what's your outside and inside perspective now on what is different in the hospitality and what could we learn from other industries?
Well, when I stepped in, and I even said it to Charlie, the founder of TSH, I found the hospitality industry, sorry to say, really a kind of dinosaurs epoch time. I'm coming from the marketing industry, and I was just like, whoa, why don't we have that data? Why are we not helping people via digital devices, enablers, or our own people working via digital enablers? So for me, it was really like, okay, I have first to make some steps back.
Right.
But I want to say something else, because if you are able to make it, and I think in 10 years, it's a common good. It's really nothing. You see it also in the marketing. It's a common good. It's not a differentiator anymore. You need it. It's just there. It's good. You need to happen. It's hygiene.
Yeah.
So what does make the difference then? The difference is then really, okay, the people you're interacting with, and of course the brand. And that's fun again, because I think a lot of people think, my gosh, okay, the tech, the data, how am I able to do it? It's difficult. I have to make so much combinations. Is there not one company who can do it for me? Never do that. Never do it with one company. You have different layers on which you work, and you have to be flexible. Also, the previous speaker said it. Be flexible. For every part of tech and data enabler, you have specialized companies. Make use of them. But when you really get that whole system alive, it's fun. It's really fun, because then it's again the really physical moment, the really moment that you can bring, and that you have the talk with the client. It's so easy, and that you can really bring that wow moment to the client. It's fantastic. Or guest, I'm still talking in client, sorry. And the brand makes the difference. What are you doing? How are people really feeling that it is so logical that you step here in the student hotel instead of all the other hotels, or just the other way around?
So, well, that was the perfect sentence for my next question, obviously. Yeah. What's your vision for TSH in the near future? How's the student hotels going to evolve in the next years?
Well, what I already said, we have a hybrid model. We know it works. So I think this model we will embrace even more in the future. We will be more a community than just for one group, and that is very important. So, and it's also not only when I talk about rooms which are for square meters, you can imagine that you can do a lot more with a building than just having rooms to sleep in.
Honestly speaking, I'm using the student hotel a lot when I speak to other hotels as an example.
Yes.
Especially when we run into, okay, we have 15% occupancy, 20, 25, 30. What can we do? How we can change operations, if they can, obviously. Not everyone can change.
No, I can imagine.
Or they're just waiting for stuff to come back, because then they will just be slam packed again. But sometimes there could be a path to evolution. What would you, from your perspective, and speaking out of the perspective of your brand, what would you recommend other hotel brands to look into first?
Well, I
know that's difficult.
No. I think it will not be different than what I would say maybe a year ago. I think always stay very close to your core, because there is a kind of a core in you where you build on, and that core is so important. If you don't have a real core in your company, it's really difficult to change.
Yeah.
But when you know that the center is there, and you know that it is very valuable, you can change a lot. But never use your core values. Never lose them, sorry. Always use them. And then you can build, and then you can change. And then you can maybe become more modern on a digital way. But even you can also evaluate with other audiences, because in that core there are inspirational parts which are also very good for guests. Maybe you don't think about now, but they really you can call it the halo effect. But they really like to be with you. We saw that with the students. There are a lot of startups, there are a lot of small companies, there are a lot of freelancers, there are a lot of even also big companies where people say, I really would love to stay in the student hotel because there is a nice vibe. People are playing, people grab a coffee, people are listening music. I want to be there. I want to have a good feeling there.
Yeah.
Well, be welcome. You can work here. And we even facilitate it now a little bit more, that you have, of course, electricity, that you can load your laptop or whatever.
Yeah.
But still, I think we also leave it a little bit because people really like to be in a playful environment at this moment.
Yeah. I've seen similar models working really well. For example, in the Mosaic House in Prague, Hotel Shani, and some others, Superbude in Hamburg, for example. So, and I can only copy that, right, for ourselves as well. When we travel, or when we used to travel more until the start of 2020, that was kind of the places where we wanted to stay, because it has a good vibe, it has a good feeling to it, and it's not superficial or artificial, whatever. People are open-minded and they want to communicate.
Yeah, and so it's very important to stay close to that. Although maybe you add other groups, really be close, and also be very, sometimes a little bit severe on, okay, people like to change a lot. Sometimes do not change everything. It's not good.
Good one. Alrighty. We have 1 or 2 more minutes. Is there any question to Marion? Yes. Where's the microphone? Philip, are you taking? Okay. So, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Gonna sit down again. You put so much emphasis on seeing the hotel not only by room count, but as well like by square meters, like saying, okay, we have X, Y, Z available square meters. So is it already a KPI you run the hotel by, saying like you have revenue X, Y, Z per square meter? So I mean, like it's a complete change of change the mindset. So
I don't say we really have everything in place yet, but the KPI we are looking for now is exactly having a KPI, a value per square meter. And of course you know that not every square meter will be used, so you have always a kind of a circle around the square meters you really use. But yes, we need a value amount of money per square meter. Yeah.
okay, thank you. And then the next question would be, you just said to evaluate before, like what actually the current guest needs. So meaning like, okay, some guests needs personal space, some need co-working, the other ones needs a restaurant, and so on and so on. So of course, and you can't just like complete your ground floor, put in a co-working area, and just hope for it to be used. And then the guests arrive. And then, so how do you actually make sure before you actually develop a building, how much square meter you need to use for co-working, for restaurant, for?
Well, I think it's also learning by doing. We have now some hotels which already have quite a lot of square meters co-working. But what we see, for instance, also during COVID time, that the restaurants were not used a lot. And we needed more square meters for co-working, and only the restaurant was used maybe once a day or twice a day, and you still had left a lot of square meters. Why not using that? Why not making that more flexible, that area? So have a working cafe or whatever, but do it differently.
However, the main point is like how do you bring like from current hotels to future development? How is the bridge there between actual working hotels feeding back to new developments?
Well, we are developing new hotels. Maybe you know that. Where we see now, I don't know exactly the balance, but we see now that we are having huge amounts of square meters for co-working in combination with food, drinks, and offices. So it's really a big amount of square meters. And we don't make a lot of distinction between food, drinks, and co-working.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your questions as well. Yeah, so we were running late. Marion, a
Okay.
great honor for me as well. Bedankt.
Yeah.
I hope to see you around. Will you stick around a little bit longer?
Yes, I will.
So if you guys want to learn
Yep.
more about the student hotel, again, Philip, Marion,
Yes.
and the team is available. And I hope to see you later as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great pleasure.
Okay, bye.